Hello and welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith and we are in the middle of an insane situation in this mansion. Mr. Vanderbilt in the back here, he is causing trouble and has summoned a whole bunch of monsters. He's obviously in league with the cultists, our cultist activity. We've got deep ones coming out of everywhere. The couple things I want to mention before we move into the gameplay from the prior video is I did go ahead and tag the monsters as they were brought up on the screen in terms of color. So what happens in this game essentially is when you have more than one enemy of a certain kind. So for instance, this deep one here spawned first, so he came with no tag on the back of him there. And then as other ones spawned, they spawned with certain colors. So I ensured that the colors match up based on what they had shown in the prior video. And then over here we had a second cultist show up when this one already existed. So he got a separate tag, and this just helps when you go into the app and you go into the kind of the monster drawer essentially, and you can faintly probably see down there that there's some color at the top left that kind of distinguishes between them. So when you're using the app, you'll be able to kind of use or know which ones you're affecting and which ones you do horror checks against and all that good stuff. So essentially what we're trying to do, from what I understand from the prior video, is we want to get here and disrupt that ritual. That's really what we want to do. There's some candles, there's a skull, and there's other trinkets there, and we need to get that as evidence or proof of Mr. Vanderbilt's corruption or issues or whatever you want to call them. It's just evidence to basically prove that this family is not on the positive side of life, that's for sure. So what we're going to do, for lack of better words. So we're going to go ahead and move into our investigator phase. Now I just realized I accidentally have him here. He was actually here at the end of the last video. So now everything's squared away. So this is exactly how we had ended the last video, except like I said, we got these little monster kind of identifiers in the backs of each monster as they should have been. And additionally, I didn't put Mr. Vanderbilt, which is being represented by a priest of Dagon. He is right here. That's him. He's in this back room. So we're going to have to end up going there and likely fighting him or doing something. I don't know if we want to kill him. Maybe that's part of the craziness of the mission is like, am I supposed to go in there and kill him? I don't know. The game makes it seem like this is the important thing at the moment. So I'm going to go for that. Now, the very first thing I get to do is choose whether I use William to run in there or I use Father Mateo. Mateo's got some interesting issues with the deep one he's got to definitely focus on. And then in terms of William, we've got to figure out what William's going to do. It's going to be interesting, guys. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but I'm sure it'll be nasty. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start off with, I'm going to start off with William York, actually. And I'm going to try to move, I'm going to move into this zone where there's not only a spot here to essentially activate a look or investigate, into the ritual circle that currently is in this room, but also we could pick us up and all kinds of other things. But again, when there's an enemy in this square, we want to focus on trying to kill the enemy, because otherwise he's just going to be hounding us and hitting us, and we're going to give him the opportunity to attack us, and that's never good. So let's just use our first action to move into here with William York. Second action, we're going to go after the cultist, and we're going to see what we can do. So I'm going to come over to this app here, and we're going to make sure we pick the right cultist. So it's the one with the red indicator on the back. So we're going to make sure we pick that cultist to engage. We're going to attack him. Now William's suited up with some decent items to attack with, I guess. The broken bottle's okay. Let's see what else he's got. You are another investigator within range, made to scare one face down. That's not going to help us now. That we're not evading, so that's not going to help us. So really, we're just going to use our trusty broken whiskey bottle that William had drank and broken earlier in the game. And we're going to use this to hopefully do something for us. It's considered a bladed weapon, so let's go ahead and click that. Your opponent rushes forward, and you lift your blade to receive the charge. Do a will check, and we're looking for 2. Now the cool thing is I have the Holy Cross on William, and that's a great news. So when you roll one additional die while resolving a will test. So his will's 4. It's going to give us 5 dice, and we just need to get 2 in order to pass this. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we didn't get enough, but you know what? This is the kind of time where I think using a clue to get us that extra damage is more than useful. So I'm going to go ahead and change one of these to an elder sign to give us the 2 successes we need. It says, if you pass, you hold steady and your foe runs into your weapon. The monster suffers damage equal to the weapon's damage. If you fail, you flinch away at the last moment. So they're just going to get the weapon. Oh, they're just only going to get the weapon's damage on this one. So maybe that was a bad time to use a clue, but I used it, so fair is fair. I really also, just so you guys understand, I don't like looking at the pass or fail before I make a decision. So yes, I could have read this and been like, oh, that, you know, maybe let's take that clue back. But I'm going to play this as I don't read the afterthought. As soon as I hit the check symbol, I do the check or choose to do the check, and then and go with the pass or fail and use my clue if I feel like it. So I chose to use it. The damage on this thing is only going to tick him up 1, which sadly I thought it would get a little bit better of an attack against them. I didn't fail at least, so that's a good thing, I guess. And the attack against him is done. So the downside is he's still in the room with me, meaning that he's going to be probably coming after me real nasty like in the next Mythos phase. So let's go over to Father Mateo. Now, Father Mateo's in a little bit of trouble, but at least he's already in the same room with the deep one, so that helps. We know that this deep one symbol is kind of a dark purple kind of color, maroon kind of color. So let's go to the tray. We're obviously going to attack him to try to get rid of him. Now, we want to make sure we choose the right weapon with Father Mateo. He's got brass knuckles that he can use for equipment, which allows him to roll 2 additional dice while attacking unarmed. So I'm going to do an unarmed attack with Father Mateo because that is not a bad thing to do with him. You lunge at your foe's legs and attempt to tackle him. Oh, you're using your strength. So I need a strength of 2. So let's take a look here. We've got a strength of 3, and it says we roll 2 additional dice when attacking unarmed. So very cool. We get up to 5. That's good. We only need 2 to pass this check successfully, so let's see what happens. Oh gosh, nothing good happened. So we got 2, and we're not going to be able to pass it because I have 1 clue, but I'm certainly not going to burn that in order to get 1 success, which still, we're still failing regardless. So it says here, if you fail, your foe nimbly dodges and you roll as you impact the ground. Okay, so basically nothing happens. So let's attack him again for the second action. This is really bad. I thought I would do much better, but let's hope for something better here. You dance in and out of your opponent's reach with your heart in your throat, throwing jab after jab. Use your agility +1. So we have an agility +1, which gives us 4. So that's going to give us 4, and then it says roll 2 dice while attacking unarmed. So we get 6 dice total. So let's take a look and see what happens. We'll roll our 5. We get an extra 1 on top of it after. Okay, so we got 1 elder sign and we get 1 reroll. So I'll reroll 1 of these dice. Ugh, worse. But I can use my clue that I have over here, which I will do, sadly, in order to make these 2 elder signs, giving me enough for my test result to succeed. Let's see. You dance in and out of your opponent's reach with your heart in your throat, throwing jab after jab. The monster suffers damage equal to your test result. So we get 2 damage on the deep one, and the deep one needs, sadly, 3. So we just were about to kill him, but it wasn't enough. So that's kind of unfortunate. I could have also used Wither as well, but there's an effect on the back there that would have happened. I probably shouldn't have flipped that, but I didn't see it anyway. So we're good to go. Those are my 2 actions with both characters. Really, to be honest, they didn't go as planned, and that's kind of how this game goes sometimes. So let's go ahead and hit the Mythos button and figure out what happens in the next phase. So we're going into the Mythos phase, sadly. Skittering and creeping, 100,000 spiders emerge from their hiding places. William York scrambles to avoid the worst of their bites. He needs an agility. So there's spiders coming out of this room right here. And we need to use William's agility of 3. And we need to get 2 successes. That is not good odds. Do I have anything that can help me? No, not with an agility. Yikes, this is sketchy. Oh no, I got 1 success. If he okay, so William York suffers 1 face. If he passes, he receives only chance. William York suffers 1 face down. If he fails, he receives many bites, and the venom makes the world warp around him. William York suffers 1 face down damage and 2 horror, and becomes stunned. Oh my goodness, that is insane. Okay, so. That's really bad. So let's first take our face down damage. So we're going to go ahead and take a damage card from the pile that goes into our damage row, sadly. And then we're going to go ahead and take 2 horror. These horrors will be face up because they're not specified to be face down. So we got to take them one at a time. Let's see what happens. We got disoriented from the venom of the rat bites. Your wits desert you, leaving you mumbled and uncertain. How could what you have just seen be real? Resolve immediately. Become dazed and then flip this card down. Oh my gosh. So things are starting to trigger. So basically, this will have to be shuffled into this pile after the video. I get a dazed condition on my card, which means that I can't use clues to convert dice results, and that's going to affect me on my next turn. So that's too bad. So now I've got the dazed condition on William York, and then I still have to pull this one here. Yeah, this is getting ugly. Claustrophobia. Oh geez, it is too close in here, too tight, and you cannot breathe. You must get into open air. You must get to open air. Keep face up. Whenever you end your turn within range of 2 or fewer spaces, suffer 1 face down horror. Okay. So how this works is, it basically says whenever you end your turn within range of 2 or fewer spaces, you suffer damage. So, for instance, him being in this room is bad news because within range means anything that's not a wall or door, and within 2 I got 1 and 1, and that means I'm within 2. So I'm in an area that's going to cause claustrophobia on William when I end my turn. So I don't really want to be in there really long, which is really nasty. So we're going to have to see how this works. And then on top of that, I become stunned. So this is really starting to pile up. The game is starting to flex its muscle a little bit and put some pain on me. So I'm going to grab a stunned card. We're going to add this to him and see what this does. I imagine this is just going to keep me in place, which makes everything worse. So stun says you cannot perform more than a single action during your turn. Oh my gosh. So he's stunned and dazed for his next turn. He's got lots to worry about. Okay, that's the end of that nastiness. Let's go ahead and continue. Let's also make sure that I haven't exceeded my anything. I'm 7 and 7. I've got 5 sanity damage and I have 3 health, so I'm still okay somehow. Then it says Vanderbilt moves 2 spaces toward the nearest investigator, then it attacks the investigator in its space who has suffered the most damage. Well, that's obviously going to be William because Mr. Vanderbilt is right here. Vanderbilt is right here. He's coming into this space where the cultist is, and he's going to attack William again. Oh my gosh. So monster attacks. Mr. Vanderbilt utters a low incantation and a strange salt-smelling mist forms in the air. Use your perception. Observation. We get 4 on observation and we need 2. Do I have anything to boost that? I don't have any clues. I am in trouble. Please let me pass this check. I did. Thank goodness. Flying colors. It says if you pass, you recognize the danger and cover your mouth to avoid inhaling more of the nauseous mist. Suffer 1 face down damage. Oh my gosh, I still get hit. So this one at least I don't flip over, but it's still adding to my total of current damage, which is not good. Okay, cultist, and this is the regular cultist. So this is the cultist that is this guy right here. The cultist moves up to 2 spaces to be adjacent to as many investigators as possible. Then it attacks the adjacent investigator who has suffered the most horror. Okay, so essentially we've got a distance of 1, 2, 3 to get to William York, and a distance of 1, 2 to get to Father Mateo. He tries to move 2 spaces to get to as many investigators as possible, then attacks the investigator who has suffered the most horror. This is kind of interesting because where would he go in this case? That is the question. I really hope I do this right because the wording on this is kind of sketchy. It says the cultist moves up to 2 spaces to be adjacent to as many investigators as possible. Well, that's not going to be possible. He's going to have to go for one or the other. My assumption would be is that he's going to go for Father Mateo, but Father Mateo's in a room, so he's not within range. I'm going to do a quick little rulebook grab here. Sorry guys, I'm just going to do a real quick double check because I want to make sure that when we move these monsters that I do not do so incorrectly. So this is one of those situations where when you have multiple guys on the board, you want to be sure that you're moving them incorrectly. And I'm sure you guys probably, some of you probably know, and this is a situation that I was not prepared for. Let's see. Monster activations. Skill test damage for monsters. Token evading monsters. Where is monster movement? Evade checks. Skill checks. Mythos. Monster activations. That's good. That's all fine. Attack example. Interact. This is the Investigator. Okay, Mythos phase. Where is it talk about the... I'm just looking at the rulebook here, trying to see exactly where this sits. So, let's see. The deep one attacks the Investigator in space who has suffered the least damage. Follow the instructions, effect results. I'm looking for anything that talks about movement, and I'm not seeing much in this one. It might be in the reference book. Yeah, I think it might be. Shoot. Okay, well, this is going to get interesting. So I'm going to have to make a judgment call here and just move on. In these situations where it could take a while to figure out which one's what, I want to be 100% sure on this. There is a section here in the reference book for movement. So it does say, like, it talks about the Investigator for move action, may interrupt his move action, blah, blah, blah. But this is all Investigator based. Monster step, monster drawer. During the game, monsters tokens can move around the board. Cannot move through a door that's blocked. Specified space is removed from the board. And all of these specifically state about. They all talk about essentially Investigator movement, and for most of it, sorry guys. Let's activate doing this step. Okay, well, I'm going to have to just go with my gut here because I don't see the rule easily found here in the rule book. So I apologize for that delay. It says in this situation, the cultist moves up to 2 spaces to be adjacent to as many investigators as possible. So my guess, just based on that wording, it didn't say within range. And because it didn't say within range, I'm assuming he can definitely rip through this door and go after Father Mateo. So to be adjacent to an enemy, he's going to try to get to here. Now it does say to be adjacent, not in the same space. So in other words, he's going to get to here and sit here. He's not going to go in. He only needs to move 1 to go there. So this is where he's going to sit. And then of course it says the monster is going to attack. So the cultist hood slips back, revealing the face of an old friend. With a gesture, your friend invites you to follow. Use your will too. If you pass, you shake off the hallucination. Oh, he's trying to trick us again. So he's going after Father Mateo, who's got a will of 5 and no ability to punch. I do have candles, which I could use to help me pass this, but with 5, getting 2 shouldn't be too much trouble. I say that, I should knock on wood. Oh, wow, no problem at all. So we got that. We shake off the hallucination and nothing happens. Now we go to the next cultist. The next cultist has you can see right down there in the bottom left, you can see kind of like a red icon. That's pertaining to this cultist now. It says this cultist moves 2 spaces toward the nearest investigator, then it attacks if it's in a space with the lowest, attacks the investigator in its space with the lowest will. Well, the only person in his space, and he's already up next to William. He's going to attack William now. The cultist fends you off with a staff, shuffling forward with care. And I'm going to use my observation to try to stop it. I need to just get 1 though, so that's not too bad. I should be able to pull that off. I gotta stop saying stuff like that in this game because that's how the game gets you. Maybe I should say it more often because every time I'm positive it seems to be working out. If you pass, you stand your ground and offer no chance to attack. Perfect, so nothing happens. Now there's a deep one moving. Now this is the regular deep one without the icon, so that's going to be this guy right here. It says, the deep one moves 2 spaces toward the nearest investigator, and then it attacks the investigator in its space. Then it attacks the investigator in its space with the lowest strength. So to move 2, he's not going to be able to get to anybody, but he's going to move toward the nearest one, and technically that's Father Mateo, because he's got to come out this door and go this way. So he's going to go 1 and then 2. So now he's here. He's kind of heading around to come after us. No investigators are in the space, so nothing attacks. Now the second deep one's going to go, the one with the green symbol. That's the guy who busted through the front door, or at least appeared, in the front hall area of the lobby. And it says a deep one moves 2 spaces toward the nearest investigator, then attacks, does the exact same type of thing. So I'm going to go 1, 2. So he's basically going to end up in the hall but not attack anything. So they're coming for me, but there's no attack, so that's good. And then finally, the purple indicated monster, which is this guy right here next to Father Mateo, is certainly ready to attack me. So he is going to attack. The creature's webbed fingers grip a heavy chunk of bone-pale coral, which it lifts above its head and swings directly at you. Suffer 2 damage, but your strength +1 negates. Now, when we're talking about, this is Father Mateo being attacked. So Father Mateo doesn't have anything, he's not an overly strong character, but he does get +1. So we get an extra die on that, so that's good. So we're going to end up having 4 dice, and we're just looking to, we're going to suffer 2 damage. We need to get at least 2 successes in order to block those 2 damage. We only got 1, okay? So I'm not going to be able to block all of the damage. So this is going to say, which it lifts above its head and swings directly at you, suffer 2 damage. So one of the damage is going to show up here. And is it a face down damage? No, it is not. It is just a 2 damage. So I have to take this. What is it going to say? Minor injury, only a flesh wounds. Resolve immediately, no additional effect. Flip this card face down. Okay, so it's going to go into its pile, and that's essentially it. Good. So nothing else came out of that. And each investigator must resolve a horror check against the monster within range with the highest horror rating. After all horror ratings have been resolved, tap the end. Okay, so now we're doing our horror checks. How the horror checks work is there's a horror note on each of these characters, kind of in the bottom right. It'll tell you what their horror value is, and you do a check against the one that's the highest. So for this particular character, it's going to be the deep one for Father Mateo. So we'll do the deep one, and it's the one with the purple icon. So we'll go ahead and click that monster and resolve a horror check. The deep one's movements and mannerisms are subtly terribly human. Suffer 2 horror. Wow, I can't even talk. Suffer 2 horror. And your will +1 negates. All right, so we got 5 will, which is good. We get a +1, so we're going to end up having 6 dice. So we'll add another one to this roll. We're trying to get 2 to block. Okay, that didn't really work out. Can we get another sign? No. Rats. Okay, so there's nothing I can do. I could discard candles to convert all magnifying glasses to elder sons when, it's when casting a spell. Ugh, that's not going to work. So I'm going to take a horror, and it's going to be a face-up one. So I gained paranoia. Now I have the exact same condition as William Yorick, but I have it on Father Mateo. So he's paranoid now. Wherever you end your turn within range of another investigator, you flip another horror face up. So that's going to be like an active card in his area. Nasty. Okay, so now we continue with that. And we do a horror check over here. It's going to be Mr. Vanderbilt is going to be who I'm going to be targeting here. So that's going to go right like this. And what I'm going to do actually is, this is the last horror check we're going to do before we move into the investigator phase. I think this is a good time to stop. So we'll stop right here. We'll pick it up in the next episode right with Mr. Vanderbilt's horror check that he's doing against William Yorick. We'll see if we can survive. We'll see if we can fight off the insane amount of enemies coming at us. And I hope you guys are enjoying this. I do apologize there for that rule checkup for about a minute or so in the middle of the video. I really hate doing that. I usually have those rules off the top of my head. But in this case, I kind of stuttered a little bit and wasn't sure. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give me a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next episode, keep rolling solo.